Good evening, one and all, and welcome to another edition of TouchyGooners. It's your boy SV Carbaholic back in the hot seat hosting duty this evening. It's been a while, where I've been fighting for my life, but we're back again, and joining me on to discuss all things Arsenal, all things performances of recent individuals. It's the troublemaker himself, Mr. Khalil. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks. I need to shed this label still because I feel as if there's when I say things, it's emotional. When other people say things, it's rational. So anyway, we'll get into it.
You see, I'm the one who has to firm all the brunt of it because I'm the one who recruited you into the chat, and people are questioning me every day for my decision making. So listen, you better not make me live to regret this decision, boy. But listen, as such.
Hey, listen, if they wanted to be on the pod, they'd be here. That's what I'm saying. But they're not.
Yes. Cool. Listen, any names? Any names? Are we naming names? Are we keeping politics in house?
I'm not saying anything, but a certain German Ethiopian who's
no
problem. He's not here.
No problem. I'm sure he'll be here to answer crimes soon enough.
Certain doctors that drive Porsches and Lamborghinis in their spare
time. Okay. Wow. Right. This is interesting. I'm ready for the drama. So let's get into it. Listeners, we're very glad that you're here with us. Just a few housekeeping rules. For those of you signed up to the Patreon, we've got loads of Patreon members now, so we really appreciate your love and support. If you do like the content, if you do love what we do tell a friend to tell a friend. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. All that good stuff, and we've got a fight card coming up tomorrow, I believe, with the boys from Cop End ahead of our big game this weekend. So that's if you like that stuff, subscribe and tell a friend to tell a friend from as little as £3 per month. All right, Khalil, let's get into it. So obviously yesterday evening we played Shakhtar at home in the Champions League. This was our third group game. We had drawn one previously, and then we had an impressive 2-0 showing against PSG last time out. Obviously, we're in an awkward. I don't even know if I say if awkward is the right word, right? Because we suffered our first league loss of this season at the weekend. Only the second time we've lost in 10 months, and there was a bit of a visceral online reaction, should I say, to that defeat, and I think part of that is partly because we know what we're up against, right? That the juggernaut, that City, they just don't give you any time to breathe. So any dropped points, even at this early stage, it could be, we look back on, like we think back to the Fulham games last season, that some of those drop points that could come back to bite you later on. And I also think generally, the way we started this season, even though we've been picking up points, performances haven't been as impressive. So based on last night, we had obviously a few changes. Jesus came in to the lineup on the right wing. Trossard, we went back to Trossard playing more central behind Havertz. We had Martinelli on the left, and we had Rice and Partey in midfield. Are there any key takeaways before I get into, we'll talk about some individuals as well. But first, what were your thoughts on the lineup? Bearing in mind all the injuries that we've had. What was your thoughts on the lineup? What were you hoping to see overall?
I wasn't really surprised by the lineup. I didn't expect Saka to be back, and I don't expect Saka to be back for the weekend either. And then in terms of, because that was the one of the major selection doubts. Likewise with Timber as well. Maybe I had a bit more hope that he'd be ready, but again, not fully surprised that he wasn't available. In terms of the rest of the team, I think it was kind of as expected. I know obviously Ethan Wanera will probably come up a few times on this pod, but if my desire would definitely be to see him getting a run out at home in the Champions League. People debate about whether he's ready and he's too young and he needs to be bedded in and all that, but I don't say that from a standpoint of doing charity here. I say that from a standpoint of there are qualities I believe that can help the team in an area where we're severely depleted. But again, didn't expect to start. Wasn't too mad about the lineup, and in terms of the performance, I think it just kind of is what it is. I mean, how can I say this? So we probably should have scored more. At the same time, I don't think anyone is coming away from that performance saying it was a great performance, and that's indicative of two things. I think one is indicative of sort of the standards we expect. You know, we're a good team, trying to be a great team, trying to win the big trophies. So it goes without saying that there's a heightened level of scrutiny on every game.
Mm.
That's just the reality of the league we're trying to win. That's the reality of the Champions League we're trying to win. At the same time, it is a little concerning that we are looking at times to be lethargic, but also considering how much control is emphasized as as our game sort of philosophy. I think there were definitely times first half and even towards the end where Shakhtar on another day, that's 1-1 in the same way that this game could have been a 3-0. It definitely seems as if there's a little bit of a rut is a strong word. I think it's more so maybe just looking to cope until the next game. I think there was a little bit of that. And obviously, we know that we've got the Liverpool game coming this weekend. But if we're using recent performances, which is Bournemouth and yesterday as an indicator of future, there is reason to be concerned. I don't think that makes you negative. I don't think that makes you a non-believer in the team. I think it makes you a person who's watched these performances and can clearly see that there are things that either we can do better, or there are things that the team has been hampered with in terms of injuries and availability. So yeah, I mean the game itself, it just kind of what it is. I don't think there was anything particularly exciting about it. It was just kind of job done, and we'll get into individual performances later. But yeah, I think it's kind of indicative of where we are at the moment. It seems as if we're just trying to cope between games as opposed to go out and really express ourselves.
Yeah, it's a tough place to be in, right? Because how I sort of position myself at the moment is I'm kind of looking, I'm like, all right, cool. It's a long season, right? The fixture list gets bigger every season. There are more and more games added to the calendar, and we've seen that with the amount of players we already have out injured, right? The fixture list is a joke, right? And but that's a football governing body issue, not really an issue of ours. So I get the point. Like, when you're playing every 3 days, you're not going to play every 3 days. Sometimes it's about how can you manage and go through. I think, I always use City as a reference point, one, because they're the best, but two, I like the way Pep, it's kind of like, the ideal result when you're playing every sort of 3 days is like a 2-0, like 2-0, win the game, conserve energy and go about. So, and I think what we actually managed that really well when we played PSG at home, right? Like first half we blitzed them, second half we coasted and managed the game out. And I think, to be fair, if I'm to be totally honest, Khalil, I think that was probably what we were sort of aiming for last night, which was to blitz them in the first half. And to be fair, if certain individuals, naming no names, had to put the ball in the back of the net, we would have been in a position where we could have coasted the second 45 minutes, right? So, so I get that. I also, and also another point to add is that we have a lot of injuries, right? Odegaard and Saka, the two key attackers for us, outside of probably Havertz, you'd argue now, are out. So any team would miss those two key attackers. However, the point I think I'm always keen to make is that players will get injured. Players will miss games through injuries and suspensions. That shouldn't stop the football. Now, fuck it, let's have this argument now, right? Because I was going to wait, but let's go into it, right? And we were having this discussion post game in the group chat last night, right? Where there are some people who think that we are purposely starting slow this season to ramp up and end well, like post January, sort of how we did last summer, right? Last season, right? The point I was arguing and disputing with that is that's all well and good if you're hoping to peak post January. I understand the thought process behind that, and that's all well and good. But we in the second half of the season, right, we went 17-1-1. So 117, drew one, lost one. But it wasn't enough to win the title. That wasn't enough to win the title because we lost 4 games in the first half of the season, which meant we had to be almost perfect in the second half of the season. So I'm kind of like, I get the that you don't want to be at your optimum level right now because obviously you want to be like like a race car, right? Down the home straight is when you want to perform at your best. I get that, but in the um in the pursuit to be perfect, don't forget to be good is always one mantra I sort of live by, right? And I get, bearing in mind some of the caveats I've already used, right, in terms of that we're not fully there yet, we're missing players. I get that, but I have not been moved by any single. Actually, tell a lie, tell a lie. I actually thought we managed the City and Spurs games really well. Like, but that was context driven, partly because of the individuals missing, and we sort of knew those would be off the ball games. I'm thinking more on the ball games. I've not really been impressed. Maybe I could say Leicester. They had like sort of 2 free goals, and we did batter them. Right, we ran up like our XG. I think that was the highest it's ever been. So maybe I'm being a tad harsh, and I could maybe exclude that one. But generally, I've I found our football to be a bit stodgy so far. Um, and people are debating this, and I feel for me personally because we lack a between the lines presence, right? And I just feel, and we've had this discussion. I feel like Odegaard at times can be a bit of a point of failure. And we know Saka's a point of failure, right? Because we're not really adequately replacing those. But and City's an extreme example. I know they spent hundreds of million, like over a billion, to have the squad they have, right? But they have so many different options that, right, if we know this person's out, we can adapt and a change, but the football still goes. Still, the only point of failure I'd really argue that they can't replace in that team is Rodri, right? And cool. But other than that, so I'm going in a roundabout way of saying that I think our on the ball performances, we were comparing our, what we were like in 22-23 when I thought the balance was almost as good as it has been, compared to what we've sort of moved towards a slower pace, more control, which I get. Obviously, teams have adapted to us probably from that first season when we were a bit, bit more of an unknown quantity in terms of what we could offer. So now, but how are you feeling in terms of the balance between out of possession and in possession and general overall performances as well?
So yeah, just to reference what you were saying at the beginning about finishing strongly in the second half of the season, I completely agree. Um, I think we even said the same thing in the group where there's always this focus on we need to be good in the second half of the season, and all I'm thinking is we literally went almost perfect, and it wasn't enough because of results, especially in the December period, is what messes the title. So this is why I'm not understanding people who are getting frustrated or annoyed at people pointing that out because we literally just went through that and we ended up with an 89-point season, which wasn't enough. I do think that there has been an emphasis on our out of possession structure, sort of carrying us through. And you made reference to the City and the Spurs games. Yeah, that's absolutely what I expected, and that was the right way to go. But yeah, I do feel as if through various reasons, obviously we mentioned Odegaard and Saka's absence, where we definitely lack a bit of guile and ingenuity, and it's especially heightened without Saka. Because in my opinion, when we look at how we sort of lined up this season, and sort of generally, I guess, I don't think we go out of our way to optimize like our attackers. And I don't mean that to say that we like hamstring them in any way, but a lot of our analysis and a lot of what's made up is Calafiori, Timber. How can we get these guys to create overloads, so on and so forth. And we've just kind of accepted that. Give the ball to Saka, he can make something happen. It used to be give the ball to Jesus as well, bit of ingenuity. So that would kind of make up for maybe the lack of I don't know if expansiveness is the right word here, where we're relying on certain individuals to make up for maybe the lack of sort of tactical bias towards our attackers. So yeah, I mean, especially in the Bournemouth game, even with and without the red card, you can see that we really it was one of those games. When they say you can play all day and you're not going to score. again, we had two big chances. I get that, but you weren't sort of inspired, or you weren't sort of looking at our midfield and thinking they can connect, the second phase to the third phase. You just watching it, and you just did not see that happening at all. And it is again a concern. I get that there are mitigating circumstances, but we can only go off what we've seen. We can project all we want about, in the future it's going to look like this, in the future it's going to look like this. One of the common things that I've just randomly remembered is, when we were debating in the summer about, buying another defender in Calafiori, there was like a line of argument of people saying things that sort of similar to say, now that we've got the defenders Arteta likes, we may see more risks being taken in terms of, letting our attackers stay high. So, in terms of when there's transitions, then there's more chances to create. But we haven't seen that. And I think that is sort of representative of how Arteta thinks control is the number one thing. And again, you get the logic, you rack up 80 plus points. You're a very competitive team. No one's saying that this whole game module needs to go in the bin. I think it's a matter of alterations that need to be made, especially when you're lacking key people who make your current game module work. I think this is where there needs to be a little more give and take, and that can be in the form of individuals. That can also be in terms of how you set up. Because I think, and just to finish off, because I've been going on for a bit, I think there are times when there are teams who, because they're so good out of possession, that they default to that sort of subconsciously quite a bit, especially when it comes to, wanting to impose yourself on the game. Because we've got Liverpool coming up, and we're going to get into that. And I am curious to see how we do set up, because if we do sort of we're at home, so I'm not expecting us to sort of, cede possession, but I am curious to see how Arteta approaches that game, because Liverpool are a team who are comfortable sort of playing either way now. But it's so yeah. To summarize, there's alterations I think that should be made to fit the game model that we're putting out, because the game model that we put out relies upon certain people to really make it happen, and those people are not there, especially in the final third. And I think that's how I see things at the moment.
Yeah, agreed. And I'll admit, I naturally have a bias towards technicians, right? It's just the way I prefer to consume my football. That's always been how I've been. But I'm more than aware there's numerous ways to skin a cat, and there's other ways to play to be offensive and to get results. I'm not saying that has to be the only way, but I think this sort of leads me on perfectly to how disappointed are you maybe that we haven't seen more of Ethan Nwaneri. Like, for me, I'm very disappointed, right? And I made this point yesterday where people were like, "Oh, he's going to start tonight." I was like, if he could not start against arguably the two worst teams in the league at home in Leicester and Southampton, like, what makes you think he's going to start? Like, he's just not. Like, and I just think, for me, it's like a shame on whatever. And I get the point. We're not there. We're not in training. I don't know what's happening. So I might not be privy to stuff that's happening that's holding him back. But when I'm seeing other people like receiving the ball high up in between, like, sorry, going off on a tangent quick, like seeing Declan Rice receive the ball high up, it legit makes me sick. I can't stand it. Like, I actually, that's not what we spent 105 million on anyway. But I digress. Like, seeing him receive the ball up there pisses me off. But I'm just kind of like, I didn't understand, for example, against Bournemouth, the purpose of lining with a flat midfield in Marino, Rice, Partey. Like, who's the one that's supposed to be receiving the ball high on the half turn? To your point, connecting midfield to attack. I just thought it was very, very bland, and it's baffling to me that we just don't really have a between the lines presence, like who can knit it. But like I said, if that's not what you're going to do, you're going to have to find another way to make it happen. But for me, what's disappointing, and it was the same again when he came on against Bournemouth, is that every time he comes on, he looks like he's going to cook something, make something happen. And I get some of that might be game state dependent, right? Tired defenders, maybe not as, but you can only do what you can do, right? You can only do what you can do based on the minutes you got, like. And for me, he deserves it, like. And I feel really disappointed, because I'm kind of like, Odegaard's probably a couple of weeks away now, right? So he's going to be back, and like we're not going to see him. We'll see him. I think we're playing Preston in the League Cup next week, so we'll see him start that game, right? But other than that, it's going to be hard to see where he gets the minutes, especially in the league, because if he couldn't get it in this period, this stretch of like 6 weeks, then I don't see where it's going to come, and that's disappointing for me because nobody, and I think one of the disingenuous arguments that I really don't like is people are like, oh, you're going to throw him to the wolves, a lamb to the slaughter. I'm kind of like, listen, I've proposed this as an alteration. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, then we can remove him. Do you know what I mean? Like we don't have to stay committed to it. But what I'm saying is I'm seeing other guys in the team who are more experienced, more quote unquote, ready, but they're not performing. So and it's not like we don't have previous, right? I've seen Cesc Fabregas come into the team as a teenager, immediately looked the best player. Jack Wilshere came in as an 18-year-old. He was Bostic, one young player of the season in his first season. The most recent example, obvious example, is Saka. Do you know what I mean? So I just think with certain individuals, I think you've got to give them the chance, man. And I don't see why. Maybe like the only concern is maybe you don't feel like off the ball he's fully in tune with like Odegaard's role, like the pressing, the game modules. I get that to an extent, and obviously that probably comes with time to learn more of the tactical side. As a 17-year-old, I understand that, but there's evident quality the kid has that other players in the team just damn right they don't have it. I'm sorry, they just don't have it. They can't do it, and for me, that's really disappointing. I found that very disappointing.
So yeah, there's a few things I want to address specific to Ethan because there's a number of arguments that I keep seeing going around and they just drive me up the wall. I think for one, right, you've made reference to actually no, I won't start there. I'll start with in my head, I knew coming into this season that there would be an evolving set of arguments as to why he never gets minutes. I could see it because from day one of the season, the argument is we've got a fully fit squad. He's gonna have to wait his time, right? And then it's like, oh, well, he can only play certain games. It's going to have to be, relegation candidates at home. But if he doesn't get minutes there, then maybe he's not ready. And then Champions League, it's the Champions League. You can't expect a teenager to. And then we get to December, it's like, oh, this, games are coming thick and fast. Can you really throw him in? And then we get to March, and it's like, oh, this is the business end of the season. Can you really? So I don't like sort of the reverse engineering of justifying not giving him minutes. Is my summary. Arteta is the manager. He's going to do what he's going to do. I get that. I am disappointed not seeing him, but it's not because I expected to see him. Because in my heart of hearts, I've seen how sort of previous incarnations of young players across the squad has gone with Arteta. And Arteta, he said himself, he feels a lot of responsibility to making these guys succeed. So all I can hear in my head is Retitius for whatever reason, legitimate or not. But this is where we disagree. And then you sort of look at how young players across the board. Let's get into it. Yamal, right? Everyone sings his praises, and rightly so, because that kid is quality. But the only reason we're doing that is because he plays. Like, we didn't just decide he was a generational talent because, he was a generational talent. We actually watched him play, and you can see what he's cooking up. That only happens if he's given the opportunity to play. Like, if you're still sat on Barcelona's bench, no one will be saying that, Yamal's the best right wing in the world because he's playing those minutes. Now, again, Barca's a slightly different context because financial issues, but the premise is he's good enough to play and I know we had this argument in the group chat a few months back because Shabs was saying it as well, as where when it comes to young players, there's justifications for not playing them, get it. But again, if there's a quality where you've actually shipped out players ahead of him to create a pathway for him, then it then seems a bit contradictory to then not give him the opportunity to shine. And like you said, you can create a player for later. Like the example I think off the top of my head is Conor Bradley for Liverpool last season when Trent was out. Conor Bradley doesn't need to be a world beater, right? But because he was thrown in deep and he swam, now you got a player for the future. If he didn't succeed, then you ship him out and you move on to the next thing. But I find it inherently more valuable if you give a young player an opportunity to succeed or succeed or fail. If he fails, he goes back and regroups. If he's got the mental toughness to play for Arsenal, he can go back and regroup. And if he succeeds, then you've got another viable option to go on and play. And to make reference to what you said about, obviously Odegaard leads our press and so on and so forth. This is where I said earlier that because you don't have the players to play at your optimum level or your optimum system, this is where, in my opinion, you make alterations. So Ethan can't lead the press. Then you maybe, adjust your press. Maybe that you're not so aggressive with it. Maybe you're sitting, further off and then you wait to engage the press on the halfway. Like there are things that you'll then have to compensate because you're already in a position where you're having to compensate. You don't have the players that you want to do your usual stuff with. So this is where adjustments need to be made in order to, to compensate. So this is where, I feel obviously strongly about it because, one, I think Arsenal were used to seeing them coming through and being able to contribute. To them sort of be hearing a lot that this isn't possible, it kind of goes against what we've become accustomed to. But yeah, I hope that he gets an opportunity to shine. And again, he could start on the weekend and I look silly, but we can just go off what we've seen so far. And if he hasn't been trusted in certain scenarios, which you can decide are, comfortable situations, then you can't then project that later on in the season he's suddenly going to be getting minutes. So that's where it is. And similar to MLS, but again, the reason why Ethan is a hot topic of debate is because there's a clear space for someone to come in that position. At least usually we've got 5-6 fullbacks that can play, so we're never sort of desperate for MLS minutes. But it's a similar principle.
Yeah, and with MLS, yeah, to the point that you can understand why he's not playing. There's loads of blockers in front of him. I get that one. With Ethan, there's not as many blockers. Do you know what I mean? So, and maybe I'm being slightly harsh, right? Because Arteta has found a couple alterations. Like we played like more of a 4-2-4-4, 4-2, whatever you want to call it, right? The Trossard and Havertz combination that has looked decent at times, so I'll give him that. So there has been alterations to an extent, but could we eke more? Is what I'm saying. So I think we potentially could. So let's leave it there. I mean, I just mentioned his name, your boy. Let's talk about him, Mr. Leo Trossard, because boy oh boy, the last 2 games, yeah, this guy has wanted me dead with some of these actions, right? Firstly, what he did against Bournemouth was absolutely insane. Like legit. I couldn't, like, don't get me wrong. I actually think it was a red card. Like, cool. I ain't even got any problems with that.
Yeah.
The issue that we all have going forward is the consistency, because we all saw what happened the following day on the Sunday, right? Because but anyway, I digress, right? What Trossard did was legit insane, and then he did it again last night, nearly in the penalty box, where he sold Gabriel short, and then thankfully we got the block in, and then he compounded it by taking one of the worst penalties I've seen in time, which I don't really understand why Havertz didn't take, and he could have set a new record for like his hot streak. I think he should have taken it, but and I saw that Havertz has got 20 out of 21 penalties in his career, so it would have made sense for Havertz to take it. Anyway, I digress again. But yeah, listen, I'll happily admit I'm not the biggest fan of this player. I can very much acknowledge his clutch moments, but that can only take me so far, because when this brother is not being clutch, his general day-to-day performances really grind my gears. Like against Bournemouth, he was getting blamed, which is probably why he made that first mistake. Like he doesn't like getting pressed. He doesn't really like receiving it back to goal. I think his passing can just sometimes, like, even though he's got the ability to be technically good, sometimes he's technically really, really sloppy, and that really winds me up. Like he took a corner with his left foot yesterday. That's great, but then my guy, 5-yard passes that you're not completing. Do you know what I mean? So just a lot of bad decisions, and obviously he is better centrally, but then still he's not what you'd classify as a playmaker, right? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I've not been impressed, and there's always a revolving door with Trossard, right? It's like he has a good impact off the bench starting, but then he starts starting games and then he stinks at the gut and then he ends up back on the bench. So I think we've come full circle, and it wouldn't surprise me if this guy's back on the bench again on Sunday. What would you say?
Yeah, so let me explain why I've been a Trossard defender for people who are wondering. I value him for the same reason that most people who value him, which is that he is an output machine. He is the reason why some of our other attackers can get away with not doing much, and then they can, at the end of the game, they can say, "Oh, he was sharp," because apparently being sharp is all that matters. You don't actually need to score goals as a striker. But yes, even though I defend Trossard, I defend Trossard from the context of him being a good squad player. I've never advocated for him to be an automatic starter. He is a valuable commodity in that he can fill in different areas, but he should never be the undisputed starter in any of those areas. You're right. He's been very, very, very frustrating these last few games. You reference his technique. His technique is interesting because he's capable of very difficult finishes. So I think it's almost like his technique is biased towards shooting than it is sort of passing. But yeah, you can see it sometimes when, especially when, for example, he's come back to help in defense or something. He's trying to shield the ball. There's a lot of times where he gives it away in that sort of context with a errant pass, and this has been going on since he even got here because he does struggle at times with the physicality. Again, but he's a senior player. He should be doing way better than what he did, especially against
He doesn't evade pressure well, does he? At all?
Yeah, he doesn't. So no defense there. My defense is purely with output because we're a team that severely lacks output across our forward players. It's very much weighted across, two and a half guys in Havertz and Havertz, Saka and Trossard. But yeah, no issue demoting him to the bench and having guys in front of him. But again, our other guys, Jesus, Sterling, they haven't shown the levels yet. So we're kind of stuck where you have to eat the rubbish that there's a potential of him being a difference maker. And yeah, that's kind of where I stand with him. And like you said, he's much better. Well, yeah, he comes into the team, he has an impact, and then he starts and he falls off a cliff. So I'm assuming that cycle resets now for Liverpool. He can come on and make some changes.
Okay, yeah. Well,
look who's decided to join us.
Yeah, we have. It's funny, yeah, Mr. Sushi. Welcome, sir. Right, we have been discussing, so we can have your input here. We've just obviously gone through the Shakhtar game, but we are discussing a certain Mr. Leo Trossard and how he's won in our stead in the last few games. So the floor is yours to comment on the overall level of performance that we've been seeing recently, my guy.
Yeah, I saw the TouchyGooners group chat, and I was like, hold on, we're meant to record today, right? So I went to the TouchyGooners management group chat. I'm seeing the meeting link. I'm like, damn, I didn't put my name down. But I saw he was in the meeting, and I was like, I need to come because I know the direction this person is going to go in, and I'm here to find a good fight. That's what I'm
No. You're too late. You already missed half an hour of us slandering.
So yeah, slandered the shit out of Arteta already, but there's nothing you can do about it.
You got to hold that, bro. Yeah. So your I was gonna say something crazy. Your defense league ain't working tonight, brother.
Yeah, you're moving very crazy. I think I can tell where you were going to go with that, but yeah, what was I going to say on the game, Shakhtar game? I know you guys probably given your assessments on it, and we kind of chatted about it a little bit. I don't feel the same way as everyone else about it. I think only a couple in the group chat were feeling similarly to me. I feel like this period of the season, I'm happy to go through teething issues. I'm happy for the football to not be fluid. I think this is always part of sort of the longer process of becoming good and being really, really consistent late in the later parts of the season. Overall, on that performance, I think first half we were actually good. And I think we controlled the game. It was quite similar to the PSG game, to be honest, where we were very hard to play through. Outside of White making a few mistakes, I don't think they got any joy coming to our goal. And it was very difficult for them to play through. And we created through our counter pressing and through Jesus. I think particularly we created chaos through Jesus, and off the back of him creating some chaos and space, we had a couple of chances, and I kind of felt like Partey had a good game in that first half. It was kind of reminiscent of what he's been doing over the last sort of 5 games, really, where he's having a good half, and then the second half, TBC, let's see what happens, kind of thing. But he was actually quite good in that half. He was very, he looked a lot more sharp. Like he looked athletic all of a sudden again. I don't know if it was just me, but it definitely looked like it to me. So it was, I think overall for the first half was a good performance. And the second half we made a few switches, and I didn't think the second half was good at all. I think the second half was relatively poor. Although it was poor, we still had plenty of chances to put the game to bed. We had 2 or 3 really good chances, I felt, in the second half as well. And then obviously we had that penalty. Some people might say it's harsh. I actually think that's very good at refereeing. Something that I would like to see in the Premier League, where you don't actually notice something has happened and they've picked it up and it's actually the right decision. I don't know where Trossard took it, and it kind of leads into the point of you guys talking about Trossard. Why did he take that penalty? Why did he take that penalty like that? And if you guys remember when we had the Community Shield game against Man City the other year, there was a theme around the penalties. Us taking time with our penalties. The whistle goes and it's like every Arsenal player took like 5 seconds to take his kick. Like the whistle went in that game. I'm pretty sure Trossard went straight away and pammed it down the middle. So I just, with him, it's like it's very difficult. It's near impossible to understand him, to be honest, because in some games he can obviously be that killer and like deliver that killer blow and deliver a match winning moment. But then very, very often, and we've always talked about this, very, very often, like it's not even one of the ones we say like he's not really playing adequate. He's playing shit. Very often. So it's kind of striking a balance. So, how much can we accommodate this guy and how often can he deliver those moments? Because if you can't deliver the moments often enough, then there's no point in accommodating him. So, yeah. But with him, it's a bit, I think this season in particular, there's been 2 or 3 big occasions where he's cost us a bit. That yellow against City, or that red, I should say, against City. I think I do sympathize with him in that moment. I think when the whistle blows, you can bet the reaction time is very minimal, and I think he got done there. But again, like why would do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like unlucky, but you are a bit of a bozo. Then the back pass to Saliba, I don't know what he was doing. He did a similar back pass in the game just gone. And it's like he always tends to like dribble in areas of the pitch where no one else in our team dribbles. Like no one else dribbles in these areas. Even Ødegaard is very like precise in the areas he dribbles, and he's much better in close control, looking over his shoulders, getting away from people. Like Trossard will just try to chop man by the edge of the box. It's like, bro, what are you doing? Like I don't understand. And this is like, it's not a theme in our game. It's just a theme in his game. So yeah, I don't want to bash him too much. But it's not.
I'm a bash him. I would have taken that Saudi off of my guy, but listen, you got to hold that one, bro.
Yeah. It's not looking. Yeah, I think from him, I think we need something on Sunday. He has to make up for what he's caused the last couple of weeks, in my opinion.
Hey, bro. I'm not trying to see him on Sunday. I'll be so real with you, bro. My opinion, based off what you said and some of his cameos this season, I'd like him to hold bench. But we'll see what solution Arteta comes up with. One, obviously that's Trossard. One other individual I wanted to touch on. Actually, there's 2. Before we go to the listeners' questions. So the first is our uncle from Ghana, because I'm telling you, if you listeners saw the TouchyGooners group chat last night while the game was going on, some of the members, I won't mention names. I should mention names. Really should mention names, but I ain't gonna mention the names. They can come and fend for themselves.
No, you should, man.
I should mention them. Okay, cool.
That's
The recently married Mr. Lewis Rowland was front and center. Mr. I don't watch Love Is Blind. That's the story for another for another night. Who else? Sate. I think Sate was part of it. Olo, Sel. They were all doing a lot of nasty propaganda for this 75-year-old from Ghana. Because actually, don't get me wrong, I'll hold my hands up. I actually think Partey's been quite good this season, and actually, he was probably the best player alongside Martinelli yesterday.
He was stinking at the beginning of the season.
No, actually true. Yeah. He was.
The perception has changed. I was going to say.
Yeah. No,
we were saying this uncle, he's going. Us.
No.
He's had a couple of good games.
But what I'm going to say is, y'all can't fool me. He's in the contract year, bro. I know exactly what that brother is doing. This brother that's been here 5 years, that has only completed more than 30 games once. I know what game this guy's trying to pull, bro. He is trying to play for that new contract, bro. And the man them in the chat are falling for it, bro. You can't fool me, because I'm telling you what's gonna happen. That brother will get a 2-year extension. We will not see that brother next season. I'm telling you for free.
And I'll tell you that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen.
Hey, listen,
50 games this season, bro.
Trust me.
Listen, when your visa is about to expire, you know the most you'll do anything to stay in this country. Yeah? You don't want to go back home. So yeah, echoing everything that's been said. That guy cannot fool me.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be fooling anyone else, especially not Arteta, because I am terrified Arteta's going to extend this guy. But
He's
anyway,
getting the extension, man.
Yeah,
Like,
trust.
warm yourself up to that.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Lewis Rowland got married, and now he's number one in the Ghana Defense League. So I'm telling you, yeah, nasty work. And the last one I wanted to talk about, and maybe I'm being harsh here. I don't think I'm being harsh because I was against this signing, even though obviously it's only on loan and not without risk. But I've really not been impressed with anything I've seen from Sterling so far. I think what is worrying me more than anything, he just looks very lethargic. And I've not liked it. And don't get
He
me
looks
wrong,
pregnant.
I think what are you saying? Too much yam and dumpling in that diet, yeah? Because it's crazy. I've not liked it. I've not liked it. I'll be totally honest. And I get he probably needs a run of games. I understand that, but this was my worry initially with Sterling, right? One, what are his motivation levels like? Because this brother's won whatever. He's been in the game for 13 years, right? He's had 13 years at senior top flight level. Like I always knew we were never getting the best version of Sterling. Now people obviously try to rationalize it by like we can still get a decent version of Sterling, right? But and maybe we do. You know, maybe I'm going to eat my words based on what I've said. But from what I've seen so far, I'm not liking it. The floor's open.
I'm expecting him to be better because, quite frankly, this is his last chance at a top club that in this league anyway. This is his last chance to be able to be at a team that will allow him to compete for big trophies because Chelsea clearly don't want him, right? He's already done the tour of England. So, like, this is your last stop. If you're not performing, this is it for you at the top table in England. So that's the logic that I'm using to tell myself that he's going to be better. And I can't even I was referring to in previous weeks the fact that he was obviously behind in his preparation, but again, that my patience is also thinning. You've made I don't know if you've said it, but yeah, his effort is the thing that's annoying me more than anything. You've got to be the guy. You got to have that hunger in you, man. And clearly you're fed. But if you want to be hanging around here, then you've got to up it. But I am willing to give him slightly more time. One, because we haven't got a choice, but two, as I made reference to, this is your last chance at the big boy table in England. So I'm expecting something better from you for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm with Sterling. I think we haven't seen much, but what we've seen has definitely not been good. I think the main thing I would criticize of him is definitely his effort levels. And if when he comes into games, he looks like he's quite relaxed, like he's like dropping his shoulder and like trying to, bro, play with some intensity. Like, what the fuck is going on around here, man? And I think he's going to very quickly realize that if he doesn't play that intensity, then this opportunity will go. We might even cut this agreement or whatever short. That is an option. If he doesn't up his levels, and I don't think he wants to. He wants to change mid-season again and then be outcasted. So I think for him the options are clearly you need to make something happen at Arsenal, either to get a long-term or longer move at Arsenal, or at least put yourself in a good enough shop window that other Premier League clubs would take a punt on you. Because let's be serious, like his wages, wherever he's going to go, his wages are going to drop. Who's still willing to give you 100 something plus, a week? There are some Premier League clubs that might, if you perform well in your loan stint. If you don't, then that move is going to be harder to find that move. And I don't think him with his family and stuff, being based in London, being based in the UK, wants to go and get some money in Napoli or in Naples. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't want to go over there and speak a different language and like having to deal with ultras who then demand him to even play better than he's having to do here. Like, you don't want that. I'm telling you, you don't want to go to these places where fans. We're passionate fans, yeah. But these guys, football is their life, yeah. If you playing with their team's performances and you don't playing the way you are now with like low effort levels, it's not even about quality with them, it's like effort levels, you're in big trouble out there. I've seen people in Schalke get chased off the team bus. You don't want to deal with that, Sterling. It might not happen at the Emirates. It might not happen at Arsenal. But if you're getting that paper abroad, that is a very likely. Like if you go into somewhere like Inter or Naples, they will steal your stuff and they will chase you down the street. So you need to make up your mind on if you want to make a last go of it. What do you call it with Michael Jordan? Was it the last dance? This is the last dance, bro. Come on, let's do something, man. Like because right now it's not looking good, man.
Brother, at Napoli, they robbed Kvaratskhelia, bro. It was only because he was performing well. They were like, all right, run that back.
Because and he's a guy that's working hard and playing well for them. So what do you think they're going to do to Jamaican-born Sterling? What do you think?
Yeah. It's looking long, and the thing is,
he's got to get real, man. Like you need to make something out of something right now. And I think the only thing he's actually brought is I think his presence has made Martinelli say, "Nah, I need to rest this." I think that's the only thing he's actually brought. Where I'm like, okay, maybe I can see Martinelli has got that hunger because he thinks if Sterling, he might play well in training or whatever. If he gets 1 or 2 chances, he could take his spot for real. So I think that's probably the only thing he's contributed so far. Outside of that, it's been pretty rubbish, to be honest. Did you guys talk about Marino, by the way?
We haven't. We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait on that one. We're gonna wait on Marino just for the purpose of it's only been a couple games, right? And I'm acknowledging
it's been the same as Sterling, though. Couple games.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. Listen, you know me. If you ain't doing something, I'm gonna crash it on you either way. I only have loyalty to a couple man in this Arsenal squad, bro. Listen, I will switch on you if you don't perform. So
I don't know if you're loyalty to them, man. I ain't gonna lie to you, Chris.
No. Right now, you see at Arsenal, my loyalty was to Saka and ESR. Those are my good dogs in it. So obviously ESR's gone now. So it's really just Saka, bro. So actually, and Saliba. Saka and Saliba. The rest, boy, on any given day, if you don't perform, my guy, I can throw you under the bus too, bro. So
I feel like you got some loyalties to Ben White as well, though.
I do, but listen, at the same time, bro, my guy, you might just have to bounce the IB for if you ain't performing, bro.
I'm not gonna lie to you, sorry for interrupting, but I'm not gonna lie to you. Ben White, he's going for the same exit strategy as Ramsdale.
Do you think so?
Interviews, nail in the coffin, bro. These
interviews. I don't think so, man.
Bro, I don't think so. I'm worried. Bro. I'm not gonna lie.
I just think
this is not his character.
See, I feel like he's just
his character to speak. You know,
he puts the guy called boxing the chair at home. Why are you doing interviews, bro?
Right. Okay. No. There's some other individuals, but I just wanted to focus on those guys for today. Okay. Let's go to listeners' questions because we have like 20. We have bare people are not happy.
Sorry. Just one last thing before we get to questions. Declan Rice, Dr. Leroy. I don't know what has gotten into your head, but you know your Twitter account is public.
Yeah, I know. He's trying to feed us to the wolves.
Dr. Leroy is a PR nightmare. We've been dealing this for a couple of years now, man.
Bro, man is shocked that people are reading his tweets. You know what kind of uncle behavior is that? Like, you know, just be aware.
Be careful, man. Leroy will be outside your house before you know it.
I know, but let me make it worth it, innit? Let me actually rile him up because what is he doing here? Like anyway, sorry, I just have to get that on record.
He's not reading the press briefings at all. So don't worry, he's gonna have a couple HR disciplinaries, but we'll review that at a late. Actually, you're gonna say F the HR disciplinaries. I got too much money, right? Listening to none of you, man. But anyway, let's go to some listeners' questions. We have quite a few. We'll start with Jessica Black. Big her up, long-time listener. She has her own content as well, guys. Be sure to check her out. She asks, is recent decline in our football, is it just about missing Odegaard and Saka, or has Mikel changed something this season?
That's a good question. I think you can't discount Saka and Odegaard missing. Those are huge losses. Those are our two most creative players. I think in their absence, Arteta has not leaned into trying to replicate what they do creatively. He's looked into, and I think I tried to touch on it a little bit in the group chat, but I think he's tried to lean into integrating someone like Marino, integrating the Calafiores, and getting them ready for the later part of the season when he thinks Odegaard and Saka are going to come in together and playing as well. So yeah, I think he hasn't really changed his style yet. I haven't seen a style change per se yet. It's more about we don't have the same personnel available. So he's kind of slightly tried to make it work with what is available, but he's not really leaned into creativity with that. He's leaned into trying to get results and being like defensively robust. And then I think the 3 games where we've dropped points, been games where the game management has not been good from our side, to be honest. The Saliba red card, the Trossard red card, and the Declan Rice red card. Those are the league games where we've dropped points, all red card related incidents, right? So, yeah. Outside of that, I would say, and I'm guessing we're going to have a lot of questions about the creativity stuff. I don't think Arteta wants us to be a crash, bang, wallop team. That's what we were in the first year where we competed with Man City. He wants us to be a lot more methodical. So I think he's looking to get the Calafiores and Marinos integrated now, to add that another layer of being methodical. And then when Odegaard and Saka come back, I think we'll see more creativity come in again. And Saka's been super creative, which is because Odegaard hasn't been here. He hasn't.
Yeah.
Before, people were like, oh, how creative is Saka? He's as creative as he's required to be. When he has to be super creative, he is super creative. When he doesn't have to be, he isn't. Like he's actually an incredible player, because as soon as Odegaard stepped out of the team, Saka was getting 5-6 chances every single game. When Odegaard was coming back in the team, he probably going to reduce it to like 3 chances a game, and probably going to add his goals back into the game. Like it's just it's a different.
Yeah, I felt that, especially in the Leicester and Southampton games, you could tell the responsibility he took from a creative standpoint. We do have quite a lot of questions around. We spoke about Ethan earlier on, so I'll let you handle this one, German, again, because obviously we spoke about him. So so HRHNONSO says, why is Arteta lacking courage to play the HLN boys, especially MLS and Ethan? Yonko Ab says, what do you think Arteta is waiting for before giving more minutes to Ethan in the league? It's particularly odd when you consider the team need his profile, and he already turned the game when he came on 2-2 against Leicester. Like Mike 196 says, and you can feed this in, with Arteta clearly easing Ethan in, what would you say is the best midfield to set up to generate chances?
Yeah, on Ethan, and I've said this in the group, and I tried to make my point clear with that, because people might have thought, oh, I don't want Ethan to play. No, I want him to play. I would have started him, but I'm trying to sense or like explain what I think Arteta's thinking or rationale is around not starting him in all of these games. Even though, for me, logically, I would say, oh, put him in there. He's a creative player. That's the solution. As Arteta, I think, and we've had some comments from him in the past where he basically said he makes it his responsibility if a young player is doing well or not. So I think he's quite apprehensive with throwing a young player in there and giving them this amount of responsibility. That don't mean I necessarily agree, because I think with Ethan, it looks like his talent is really, really big. So he might be able to shoulder it. I mean, I think he could shoulder it, and it looks like he can shoulder it when he comes on as well, and he takes actions that are positive. But Arteta clearly feels like he doesn't want to put that burden on that player. And I think he's made some comments around this in the past, right? We could probably find the quotes on this. And then also the other layer to that is that Arteta, whilst Saka and Odegaard are out, I already mentioned, he's trying to integrate Marino, who's not had a preseason, has been at the Euros, who definitely looks like he's not match fit right now. He's not accustomed to a game model as well. He's standing in the wrong places at times. If you compare Marino at times played the Odegaard role, if you compare what Odegaard plays and how he presses and how sharp he is and how he bounces off and the spaces he closes up and how quickly he does it, Marino has not been able to replicate that at all. So I think it takes players quite a bit, especially in midfield, to understand what they need to do. That's a big role. So he's, I think, at this moment in time, prioritizing the first team player that's been signed to accustom to the game model. So I think at the moment it's a Marino, Ethan Waneri thing. And once Marino's accustomed, Odegaard should be back, and he thinks we're then at full strength And I think then we'll probably see a few more opportunities for Ethan in the games where we think Odegaard probably shouldn't be playing or X, Y, and Z. I think he's looking at the wider angle and saying everyone needs to be ready. And Ethan, actually, we shouldn't be leaning into him as a responsible performer. I think that's what his prioritization is. So that's how I view it, kind of thing.
Okay. I'll quickly just go past this one because this guy, I don't know why he always does this. Stina SWVG says, hi there. For those that wanted Rafael Lamau, the thing is, I swear nobody in this group wanted Rafael Lamau. Do you still want him after his nonsense performances? Also, Adeyemi, Stina Blackstenius, bro. Also, Adeyemi, huh?
Is it the Adeyemi guy? The guy you asked about Adeyemi?
Yeah, Adeyemi, and he said again, Adeyemi's better.
Rafael, who do you mean by Rafael?
No, Rafael Leao. He equals Lamau, like LMAO.
Oh,
like yeah. So I'm just he's bantering, brother. I don't really know what you want us to say. If you think Adeyemi's better, okay, cool, my guy. I don't really know.
This guy's crazy.
Arsenal are not buying either of them, so, we don't need to talk about that, my guy. So we can move on.
Is that Adeyemi's burner account or something? Like, this
bro,
is crazy,
bro.
For Arsenal, you know.
Yeah. He's really trying to manifest this Adeyemi to Arsenal one. Right. JK_Muku says, does Arteta get over his galaxy brain tendencies, or is it always going to be a feature of his? And if so, can he win the Prem with those tendencies? And he asked the same Ethan question, so we'll pass over that. Khalil, do you think Arteta has a galaxy brain, or do you think it's more with what German was saying around just how methodical he is, and he tends to overthink things? He isn't really somebody that's going to do what you necessarily want.
I don't think he's displayed his galaxy brain in a long while, actually, because we used to accuse him of trying to fix one problem by moving 6-7 guys around, but he hasn't really done that. I think what the conspiracy theory I do believe in is I think he's been permanently scarred by our loss to Manchester City 2 seasons ago. Okay. And he's just molded everything around physicality, control, which leads to some of these debates that we're having about maybe our lack of ingenuity or, free form or whatever it is you want to call it. So yeah, I don't subscribe to him being a galaxy brain guy. I think he's naturally, I think naturally is the wrong word. I think he's very, very, very control orientated as a result of his experiences. And you can see sometimes in his quotes regarding, English football when he first picked up the job, and that he's always had an idea of his teams being physically imposing. I think this is just the apex of that, and things can evolve. I would like them to evolve a little. And if he doesn't win the league, he doesn't win the league, innit? I mean, I'm in 2 minds about picking up my Arteta out cape, but let's just see how the season evolves, innit? So if we end up with 95 points, we don't win, it's another thing. We end up, in a different scenario, then we pick up those conversations later. But I do believe we can still win the league. Just depends on how we approach the rest of the season.
Yeah. A1 Ords First says, for Sunday, this is on the subject of galaxy brain. This might be a galaxy brain one. Do you think? Well, it's not really Garrett. We've seen him play there before at West Ham, right? He says, do you think Gabriel and Rice as centre back with Partey and Marino pivot is the way to go?
Yeah. So this sounds like one of these Mugger man's burner accounts, because there's no way a man is coming to say that Declan actually plays centre back of the week. For what reason? For what reason at all? We haven't discussed Rice because I know we're running out of time, but absolutely not. Why? Ben White is right there. If anything, I feel more comfortable with White playing a centre back as opposed to out wide, because we've seen his struggles at times with, pacey wingers. But yeah, White and Gabriel played a whole season together. It's the best backup option, and we've, especially with our other issues midfield, I don't get what we get out of it. So yeah, whoever that is from Mugger, worry about yourself, innit? You got your own issues over there.
Well, speaking of our Mugger counterparts, Mr. Mariah at Houdini himself asks, how cooked are you? My guy, listen.
Bro, the rice is burning at home.
Bro,
I'm not going life and death with Fenerbahce tomorrow, and I'm tuning in. Boy,
I lie. United pain gives me endorphins, so boy, I will be watching United tomorrow. But how cooked are we? Listen, we don't air our in-house politics, publicly. So we will discuss our third world problems in peace. But listen, our first world problems are minuscule in comparison to what's going up the M1, my guy. Because you, man, if we're cooked, god damn, I don't know what you man are, boy. Because, bruv, from when you man are not even paying your light bill in your stadium and the stadium is leaking, my guy, you man got much bigger problems to worry about.
No, we need this though. We need the tussle, man. And you know what? The great joy I get is like sometimes people disengage when they're still engaged. Mariah's interested. It means more, man. That's what it means to me, man. The fire is still burning, bro. The fire ain't out yet. They can't tell me that fire out. They can't tell me that belief is gone. Fire is still there. That's all I need, man.
That's what you need, yeah. At K Boogie says, this is more a general question. With the exorbitant figures we're seeing nowadays in transfers and wages, do you think it's in the interest of the league to introduce a wage cap and a more American-like trade system? Could that be a way to correct the market a little bit?
No.
Simple.
Or should I elaborate?
No, you can elaborate. Yeah, you can elaborate.
Salary caps only benefit the owners. And if you're interested in benefiting the owners, that's your agenda. But to me, if you're wanting to invest as an owner in your club and you've got the capability to do so, as long as you're not, fudging the books, go ahead and do it. This thing where, we've got to flatten out everything to make it more like American sports. I'm a fan of American sports. That's the system that works for them. It works very well, and that's how it is. But I think I'm going to sound all Brexit here, but I think there's something we should cherish about the pyramid and all that kind of thing, because if you can't just introduce a salary cap for the PL, you got to introduce it then across the leagues. I'm not sure how that works, and especially because we've got a European aspect to it, trading in between leagues. I don't really see how that works.
I don't actually like the pyramid. I don't actually like the pyramid.
Why?
Yeah, I was a supporter of the Super League. I don't like the pyramid, personally. But the problem that they have is that, with the NBA, for example, the NBA owns all the teams in the league. So if there's an owner who's, fucking around and stuff, they can get rid of that owner. It's not as easy for the Premier League. The Premier League doesn't part own any of the teams in the league. They govern the league, but they don't own them. So something like salary cap and all that kind of stuff, they can't impose. They can barely impose like the financial stuff that they're trying to do. Teams are getting around it. So, and teams are even fighting them on some of these regulations. So it's a lot harder. So I think in practice, this is actually not implementable for the Premier League. And for the wider football, as Khalil always said, Europe, it's not really implementable because that's again governed by someone else, and there's other leagues and there's too many federations. You can't do it in football. There won't be something like a salary cap or max transfer cap. The only thing you can do is try regulate how much of what you actually make in revenue you can put towards transfers, and that's what they're trying to do. And clubs are still breaking that anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Mika1196 says, how much longer can the PGMO's influence on our season be ignored in a league that is defined by margins? So there have been previous weeks where I have moaned a lot about the refs, and we could do it consistently, right? Because we see it every week. They're trash, the inconsistencies of their decision makings, and without trying to be too tribalistic here, I do feel like there is an extent to which we get ref to the letter of the law that I don't think gets applied to every other single team in the league. However, on that point, I will side with Arteta to the point where we know what the refs are like. So as a team, we've got to be smarter. We've not got we've either got to be smarter to avoid, them making these decisions, or we've just got to be so good that it becomes a non-factor essentially. And I think that's the point we have to reach. And that's why I think it's important to just focus on the variables that we can control and just be better. And this is the discussion I was having with Sushi earlier, where I was just like, I just want us to play better, just generally. And that's what I'm not worried about, because I know that there's much higher levels that the team have got within them. So I know we can play better, which is why I just want to see, even though I expect us to peak later. So yeah, that's kind of my view. Go on. Sorry. Yeah. Did you want to add to it?
Yeah, my super serious answer on this is if these refs are going off to collect £20,000 fees from the UAE, what we should be doing as a club is thinking inevitably. So we need to start homegrowing refs, man. Like we need to start going into the community and start recruiting young G's to send them on these refereeing courses, and then in 10, 15 years' time, suddenly you'll find all the refs in the Premier League all originate from North London, Northwest London, and then we'll get 50-50 decision going in our favour. That's the only way I can really deal with the PGMOL, because they're not going to fix anything themselves. So
yeah, and just quickly on that point, Bog McKelvey says, why do you think Arsenal didn't appeal the red card of Saliba? The reality is they hate us. We weren't getting that shit overturned, even though like we saw what happened the next day with the Totti and the Jota situation. It was never going to get overturned. So I just think they looked at it and was like, because where the thing is where you can appeal and then they're like, no, that's a frivolous appeal, or extend the suspension by more than a game. It's just one of those ones where you're just like, let me just firm the game and he'll be back after that, innit? So yeah. Did you want to say, Sushi, you're on mute? I don't know if you wanted to say something, cool, but yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, man. I was gonna say we can talk about the ref so much, but it's just, for me, it's just hilarious, man. All that it's actually so good seeing it happen, and how disingenuous people are. When what happened to us on Saturday was 5:30 kickoff, game ends by 7:30. You see all these reactions, all the opinions, all the analysis in the next sort of 10-12 hours. Then you have the big game on Sunday, same shit happens. Outcome is different. The reactions are now trying to justify why the outcome is different. For me, it's just, that's so funny to me, because you're lying. You're being disingenuous. And if you don't, then I do worry for you in your way of thinking. But for me, that's all it is to it. I agree. We need to just try and manage it better from our end. And win games, and that's it. But overall, it's just funny to see. I don't have any hope in the PGMO, MOL, or whatever the fuck they're called. Hard Web and his boys. That they'll change anything this season. To be honest, they'll stick and twist. They'll do whatever throughout the season. They'll just make it hard for us. They make it hard for some other teams. They make it easier for some teams. To make it easier for some other teams. Kind of thing. So that's what's going to be.
Utterly hilarious how like 80% of the refs are from Manchester, but I'm sure they're
homegrown refs, man. I'm telling you, we set up some fake bank accounts. We start shoving in money and then sending all these men from ends to go on these refereeing courses, and the next thing you know, you got a bunch of black refs all from North London, and no one's going to ask no questions.
I know. If that referee was called Tolu, there would be like, I know. Because Mark Albright and it looks like him, it's all right.
It's all right. Don't mind them, bro. Clubs for the boys and all that. All right, there's 4 more before I want to wrap up, and there's some interesting ones that I want to get into. So I'll do a quick one. Opinions on Calafiori defensively.
Rash,
but aggressive, but quite contained, I hope.
I think definitely aggressive, definitely a bit rash, but I always prefer my defenders like that.
He always moves. He always adjusts his body to be. I think he looks like a good defender to me, just a bit rash.
And I think I'm much easier when I can see that the tools are there. I think it just needs a bit more refinement. So I'm not really that worried about Calafiori defensively. I just hope the way that guy's ankle and whichever thing twisted, it's not that bad, boy. So
this guy's too emotional. Even the way he twisted his knee, bro. You don't have to. Like the way your knee's twisting, you're trying to jump off it, bro. Relax, man. What the fuck is going on,
brother? You can tell he's a proper Italian, innit, bro? Them guys,
Italian. He's a passionate guy,
bro. Italians are too emotional, bro. Far too emotional. Interesting question from Ranch Dingus. He says, how long do you think, and this is quite interesting because considering we know how long it sometimes took players like to adjust under Pep, thinking of like Bernardo Silva, Mahrez, how long do you think it takes for players to adjust to the Arteta way? It's taking time with the non-pre-season players, and it's an interesting one, right? Because I feel a lot of the players who often come in, right, Havertz has spoken about this, that Arteta's showing you football in a completely different way. Marino's like, the way I've had to play is very, very different to what's being asked of me at Arsenal. I'd love to be a fly on the wall just to see what's being asked, but it's an interesting one, right? Do you think it's just, or do you think it's different depending on position, maybe, where some might adapt straight away, some maybe need a bit longer?
I think it's different depending on position, but also if you take a guy like Marino, if he was brought in at the beginning of the summer, I fully would have expected him to be starting from match week 1. I think if you look at our signings this summer, Calafiori was relatively early, and he was. Wait, did he start at the beginning of the season, or did I imagine it? Or was Timber? Timber, yeah, Timber. Yeah, so he started immediately. Calafiori came in soon after. So I don't think there's a reticence necessarily to give minutes to new players. I think it's in the context of, how they've come in to the squad and made position. Because let's say we bought Nico Williams this summer. I see him going straight into the starting 11 if that was the case. So
to that point, do you think Marino would have started the season had he had a pre-season with Arsenal?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think Partey was going to be transitioned into the sort of the luxury guy, or maybe a guy you come on to bring on in game state and occasional games.
Yeah.
That's just me. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think because the way it's adjusted now, you're seeing Jorginho is basically getting the El Neni minutes now, boy. That brother's not even being seen anymore. So, okay. Go on, German.
He's a coach. Jorginho's a coach.
Yeah. I could see him transition into that from after this season because his contract runs out end of the season as well. KG_FFB says, do you think being third in the league could work in our favour psychologically? I believe our players will handle the pressure being better in the chasing pack and underdogs rather than being chased down by Liverpool and Man City for 30 games.
This sounds like copium to me, man. I want to be first next week, and I want to be first all the way through to match week 38. Like all this thing about positioning, as a team, we should be emotionally past that.
Yeah, 100.
The goal is to win the title, win as many games as possible, be at top of the table. All this chasing pack, leading pack, all that thing. Those are maybe all like sort of psychological factors that would have a bigger impact 2 seasons ago when we were just starting out trying to compete. But now all that is irrelevant to me.
I don't know. I like the narrative around like if City have because we've been chased down I think when last season we weren't chased down, we were trying to chase them down and they didn't drop a dime, right? But we were chased down. I like the narrative of going back and chasing them down. Do you know what I mean? So that would be quite a good story to tell. Like as in like I think I like the idea of that. Like if Liverpool or City are leading, and we're then winning 10 on the bounce, like it'll be a good story. But ultimately, you take that title anywhere you can get. So if we're first from November all the way to the end, of course I'm going to take it. I'll be jubilant. But it will be a nice narrative if we chase them down in like a dramatic fashion or something like that.
Yeah. And we'll end with this one from I am Mr. Lex. And I think we touched on this right at the start, but German, you weren't here for it. He's basically said, is everyone overreacting to a bad loss because of what we're up against? Or we're just really bad at the moment without Odegaard and Saka?
I told you in the group chat, y'all running scared. Y'all running scared.
Scared of what?
I think, unless I'm confident in the team. Yeah, I think we have a lot of injuries, even with the injuries that we have. I'm confident in the team getting results in this moment in time, and then at some point, hitting their groove and going for it. So, from my perspective, that's it. So, if I'm not confident in the team, however, I would definitely be worried about Liverpool on Sunday. I'll be worried about dropping points the week after that, the games in between. Like, I'm not too worried about these things because I'm confident in the team. I expect the team to do well. It's their responsibility to do well. They're very good teams and very good team with a lot of good players. So I think the only thing that could really hamper us is the injuries, and obviously that's a fact that we can't influence. We need to see how the club manages it. But if they're back, I expect us to be up there. So I'm not too worried. I think at some point we're going to hit a groove. We've seen this two seasons in a row now. We are capable of scoring a lot of goals. We're capable of winning games on the bounce. Like, I'm not too worried. So yeah, I think that's where it stems from with me. And I think overall the fan base is just desperate to win this title. That any little thing, like they're losing it. They're losing it, I think. And when I think the expectation of us is also different at other clubs. People watch us and expect us to play well. I've tuned into some games for Liverpool and City, and they didn't look that good to me. They just won, and there's no uproar about it. Do you know what I mean? So Yeah, I think that's kind of to do with it as well.
Great. Khalil, anything to add?
I reject the notion that pointing out poor performances means that you're overreacting and emotional and
No.
losing composure and all these other descriptive words that German Dan has used in the group. And you know what? I'm going to come out and say it. There's a two-tier justice system within the TG group.
That's
because
fact.
when I say these things, or Shav say these things, it's emotional. But when certain like SB Carboholic who benches 200 kg say it,
Oh,
then
what's going on?
it's the argument.
I say the same thing to Shabs, bro. I tussle with everyone.
When heavyweight boxer Dr. Leroy says it, then you've actually got a point, you know. But when me, it's emotional. So you know what I need to start hitting the gym. Because maybe my opinion.
I'll say the same thing to Leroy. I would tussle with anyone, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I'm actually like I said, I'm not worried. I just want us to play better. Like, and I get it. Like, there's players being integrated. There's players missing.
What do you care about more, playing better or winning?
Both.
No. I'm asking,
Both.
what do you care about more in this moment in time?
No, winning, of course, winning. Like,
okay, so
I always want to win, but
by process, though. This is what I'm
saying.
Yeah,
and we can't ignore that. No, but we can't ignore that. Better performances invariably lead to better results. Like we played shit against Bournemouth at the weekend. Do you know what I mean? Which is why we didn't win. So and even before that red card, we were crap. So
we would have won with 11.
Probably. Yeah, I'd say probably.
Same as what happened to Shakhtar. Like we played shit in the second half. We still won.
Yeah, that's fine. But my guys start playing well.
Yeah, but what I'm arguing when I say people are emotional and like are running scared is when people say, "Oh yeah, we're not threatening. We don't create." Bro, I'm bringing up the charts where we are top of the creative leaderboard. We create the most big chances. We're missing the most big chances. You know, I'm bringing you data that tells you what you're feeling is not specific. Do you know what I mean?
All right, fuck all that. Let me be honest, bro. I just want some tech in the midfield, bro. I'm seeing Pedri pam Bayern, bro, pam them, and I'm seeing. Listen, I don't.
You think he's doing that in the Barclays week in, week out?
Yes, man. Yes, bro. I saw Cazorla, Modric, all them man 2 feet tall centre mid. Oh, are you trying to say them man wouldn't blam in the Prem now? Yeah.
They got 0 league titles between them in the Premier League. Both of them,
yes. Why are you being so disingenuous? You're actually just being proper nasty now. No, you're
different beast, man. Intensity was a different beast.
I hear it. Yes.
Modric has the legs as well, but
if
you don't have the legs in this league, you're dying.
Yes, and it's true, because we saw Vitinha. No. I just want.
Bro.
I want balance, bro. I want balance. Don't get me wrong, because we saw Vitinha, João Neves, and Zaire Emery come to the Emirates.
I saw these guys put in a pack.
And they got put in a pack. And their man are hella techie, but they got put in a pack. But at the same time, don't go too far the other way, bruv. I need a mix of tech and PMP, bruv. Don't just fill my team with bouncers and security guards, bro. Come on, man.
I don't disagree with that, but you know, when we have our
and you, I don't know why you're talking like that. You hate people with bad first touches.
Yeah, I do.
Come, bro, bring your face on screen. I don't know why you're trying to run away, bro.
I hate people with bad first touches, but I need someone that is actually intense, like is able to run. I need that with a touch. And if you only have the touch, I can't work with that, man.
Nah, it's true.
Hold on. Let me tell you, yeah. These guys wanted to run Madison, Ødegaard, twin eights with a DM. Do you want this DM to die? Like, this is with that type of midfield combination. You can't, bro. Like, what we do? That constellation don't work. Madison's getting hooked at Spurs because
he's getting hooked at 45 minutes.
With 2 bounces in midfield, he's getting hooked. You wanted to run that with Ødegaard and that DM, whoever that DM is, 105 mil, they can rise like expired after 2 years, bro.
Yeah, Partey's life insurance is going to get rejected.
Okay, no, that's a good place to leave it there tonight, gents. Thank you very much for joining. It's been fun. It's been a funny pod. I've enjoyed this one. Listeners, listen, it's not been great football wise at the moment, but we're still there. Let's just make sure we hang in, get players back, and put those bloody Copen boys in a pack this weekend. We're back with the fight card tomorrow. So yes, we'll be tussling with them guys over across the other side. But thank you, listeners, for checking in. German, Khalil, thank you for joining. We will be back with a post-match after the Liverpool game on Sunday. Catch you on the flip side. Peace.
Bless.